Welcome to Greater Life, Greater Impact, everybody. Glad to see that you are all here. It's a beautiful morning. Oh, let me silence my phone. We got a lot to cover today, and I am going to do a little bit of talking at the beginning, but I want you guys to grab a pencil and a paper. You're probably going to want to be able to have something that you can write stuff down, because I'm going to ask you a series of questions that will help to trigger stuff that's coming up inside of you. And you may want to be able to have a pen and a paper so you can write it down. So today we are talking about love blocks. So we're going to be talking about what and where are you blocking both the giving and the receiving flow. So love is an energy, just like all the other energies that flow into us. Love is an energy. It's a force. It is a powerful force. It's the force that created the universe. In some ways, Star Wars really did get it right, that when they talk about the force, using the force, that's a powerful energy. And the energy that has the greatest amount of power is love and truth and light, which they're all synonymous. All those three things are the same. So we definitely want to be in a place where we're tapped in, tuned in, turned on to that healthy flow of love constantly. So the best way to do that is to remove the blockages, the things that are blocking you from both giving and receiving. So if you guys have your pencils and your papers ready, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. We're going to start triggering where are the blocks being stored inside of you that prevent you from both either giving or receiving massive amounts of love, which is the highest frequency that you can experience inside of your body. So the first question is, and you're more than welcome to jot down notes. You're more than welcome to journal about this maybe later so that you can also tap into deeper triggers that might come up after this class is over. So I would definitely just kind of keep track of the questions. First question: what lengths will you go to in order to receive love from others? What lengths will you go to in order to receive love from others? Feel free to write that down, but also be thinking about it, pondering on this question. What do you do to go out of your way in order for you to receive love? And what does that love look like? Does it look like acceptance, approval, validation from other people? What does love look like to you? Maybe that should probably be our first question. You could put a number 1 on that one. What does love look like for you? Does it come in the form of acceptance, approval, validation, feedback from the world around you? What does love look like to you? And the second question behind that should be, is that really love? Is that really love that you're seeking? Or is it something else? Okay. The next question. Sorry, you're going to have to write fast. But the next question is, what lengths will you go to in order to put love out there and to show someone in your close proximity that you love them and that you care about them? What lengths will you go to put love out there, to send love out, also to receive love in? Just think about that for a moment. Now, as you're writing those questions down and maybe pondering on those questions, I'm going to talk a little bit about the exchange of both giving and receiving love. This can be perfectly demonstrated in talking about the masculine and the feminine energies, the divine masculine, the divine feminine. You have both inside of your body. You have both masculine energy flowing through you and feminine. One comes in, the other goes out. The energy that that expresses out of you, which is an expression of love where you give out, is masculine energy. The part of you that receives into the heart is the feminine side of you. That's the feminine energy. So let's talk a little bit about the divine masculine and the divine feminine for just a moment. And if I miss anything and I'm covering some of these concepts, I know that many of you guys have way more knowledge than I do. And again, here's my disclaimer. Don't believe a word that I say. Please go back to your own source, go back to God and check in to get your own truth. As always, don't take my word for it, because I am not your guru. I am not your source of truth. I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm just a vessel sharing with you some of my experiences. Okay, let's talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So, masculine energy, like I said before, we have both energies that flow through us. And the goal is to have both of those energies be in harmony and balance and synchronicity with one another. So, as the divine feminine energy flows into us and pours in, she receives. The woman receives, the man gives. Right? Just think about even sacred sexuality and the roles there. That's not just metaphoric. That is a literal example of how the energies flow. In my mind, I always pictured the divine father, so God, Father God, just holding this big, beautiful space for mother to dwell in and to operate in. And she heals and she creates and she nurtures. And she does that through intuition and spirituality and emotion. And she gives birth. So, I mean, the divine feminine is a powerful energy that resides within us. It's what creates. Like all creation of the universe has been birthed through the divine feminine energies. It's a powerful creative force, but it can't do its work without being equally yoked to the divine masculine. So it doesn't make her better than anyone. It doesn't make her better than the masculine or him better than the feminine, but they both have to be equally yoked in balance and harmony with each other in order to fill and perform their proper functions, to fill the measure of their creation. Right? So we have this beautiful Father God image. This is just in my mind, right? I have this image of him. He's expansive and big and huge, and his love just emanates out. He is just so full of love that he emanates out in every direction. He shines, but he holds this beautiful, nurturing, safe space for mother then to nurture and to heal and to create and to give birth to creation. Once she has given birth to creation, Father then holds space for that, but he organizes it. He uses science and logic and reason and brute force and strength and power to make sure that creation comes to fruition. Right? He is the driving force. He is out there getting stuff done with a driving, powerful force. She is in this safe space, this safe harbor that he's created for her, creating and nurturing and healing and receiving. And he is the expansive expression of that, putting that creation out there, putting it to form, making it, bringing it into divine order. So if you think about the properties of the divine masculine, they're about going out and getting stuff done, right? We're going to get stuff done. We're going to get from point A to point B in the shortest distance because we are efficient and we are using logic and reason. I mean, look at what the divine masculine has created. Just this past weekend, my husband and I celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary. We drove out to St. Louis to go see the St. Louis Arch, 600 feet straight up in the air. It's an arch, for heaven's sakes. How in the world did they build something like that made out of stainless steel without it collapsing in before the two sides came? Like, I was amazed. We watched an hour-long video as to how they got that done. The logic and the skill and the reason and the math and the science that went in to creating something so amazing and powerful was inspiring to me. That largely is divine masculine energy. And then the rest of the weekend, as we drove around the rest of the city, I looked at these majestic, incredible, powerful buildings and structures that engineering minds came up with. And then you think about how much manpower went into laying every single brick in these tall, I mean, there's a lot of brick buildings that are gigantic buildings in St. Louis, Missouri. I thought about the man hours, the labor that went into laying every brick, laying every piece of steel, riveting all that steel together, the thousands and thousands of, like, that is divine masculine energy. Then we come into the divine feminine energy, and we think about the creative force that went into coming up with those ideas, and bringing the ideas to fruition is divine masculine, but the ideas and the creativity and the emotion behind it and the meaning and the intuition behind it, that is definitely divine feminine energy. So divine masculine gives, it creates for sure, but it gets the creation, it brings it to fruition. So, and you think about the creation of a human being. There's two pieces that have to converge and come together. You can't just create a human being with just an egg. There has to be a sperm, and they have to come together. The symbol that represents the divine masculine is a square. The symbol that represents the divine feminine is a circle. It's flowy and bendable, and as a result, when the divine feminine energy gets out of whack, it cannot get from point A to point B. It gets overly sensitive and overly emotional, and it cannot logic and reason its way through a paper bag because it's out of balance. So when the divine masculine energy gets out of balance and out of alignment, it gets controlling and angry and wants to use brute force to bring things back into order. And so in order for both the energies within us and also within our intimate relationships, in order for those to be in a place of balance and harmony, they have to work with each other. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that. One of the environments that really needs to be created in order for that balance to take place and that equal yoking of both the flow of energies is both the masculine and the feminine energies need to feel safe. So in an intimate relationship, then, if your divine masculine, if your counterpart that is in his masculine energy does not feel safe, he's probably going to go into coping mechanisms that make him way out of whack, out of balance. And now here's another thing to consider too, is that sometimes men operate more in their divine feminine energies than they do in the masculine. And if that's the case, then when they feel out of balance, they're going to be overly sensitive and overly emotional, like tears. And they'll be wishy-washy. They can't make up their mind. They can't think clearly. They're all over the map. They can't get from point A to point B. That is divine feminine energy out of whack, out of balance. you can flip that around on its head too. So if a woman is operating mostly in her divine masculine energy, she is all about logic and reason, and she is all about just using brute force to get through her life and get the stuff done that she knows she's got to get done. And she's gonna bulldoze you over in the process because she ain't got time for the feminine. She doesn't have time. The feminine energy is very intuitive and flowy, and it doesn't necessarily need to get from point A to point B. It's all about the journey, not about the destination. For the divine masculine, it's about the destination. It's about getting that building built. Let's get that done, and let's do it in the most efficient way that we possibly can. And here's the strategy, and here's the steps. In the divine feminine, it's more about let's have a great time doing it. Let's enjoy this process. Let's have it be a meaningful experience. Let's allow creativity and intuition to divert us if need be, if we're a little bit off track. So, where in your life and in your relationships, your intimate relationships, do you not feel safe? Write that down. That's the next question. So, we're trying to trigger blocks in you. Where in your intimate relationships do you not feel safe? And in those moments when you don't feel safe, let's say maybe you got triggered by an experience or an event or something happened and it pushed your buttons really big time to the point where you were upset or emotional or retaliating or feeling threatened or needed to attack back, or maybe just recoil and go into sadness. Whatever that looks like for you. That's the next question is, how did you respond to those feelings? How did you respond to the experience of not feeling safe in an intimate relationship? What was your response? Tina says, I'm not sure I've ever felt safe. Ooh. Okay. You are getting to some roots there, Tina. And so keep that on a piece of paper somewhere, make a note of that, put a star by it, because we're going to come back to that. Okay. Awesome. And thank you for the feedback. If any of you want to share some feedback as stuff is coming up for you, please do share, because it's going to help a lot of people to work through their stuff as well. So please don't worry about being vulnerable if you're willing to share some of the experiences that are coming up for you. So let's just take the example of what Tina is experiencing in her intimate relationships is not feeling safe. So what is being reflected back to you? That's my question. Once you have what the triggers are, what the buttons are, what's coming up for you in your relationships where you don't feel safe, because again, if you don't feel safe in a relationship or in an environment or a situation, you're never going to open yourself up. You're never going to open your heart up, because that's too dangerous. It's too vulnerable. And if you can't move into vulnerability in an intimate relationship, that's not intimacy. You won't have an intimate relationship. You'll have roommates. So the next phase is we're going to identify what are the issues coming up. So Tina's, for example, was I've never felt safe. That's the issue coming up. So you identify what the issue is for you. In your intimate relationships, how do your buttons get pushed the most? What is the issue for you? Write it down. I'll give you just a few minutes to ponder and reflect on that. What do you resort to? What are the behaviors? Do you withdraw? Do your claws come out? Do you get angry? Do you say hurtful things, or do you just go into inner hurt and hold on to that hurt and that wounding in your heart? What behaviors do you resort to? Now, when you experience wounding in your male-female masculine feminine relationships. And typically in any relationship, even if it's two men or two women, in any relationship, there is going to be one who's probably more predominantly in their masculine energy and another who is probably more predominantly in their feminine energy, because we're always seeking for balance. We're always seeking for the connection and the synchronicity of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us. So it doesn't matter what type of relationship it is. Both the divine masculine and feminine are seeking for balance. Even if it's a parent-child relationship, right? Or just friendships, you're constantly seeking for that balance. Okay, what are the issues coming up? What do you resort to? What is being reflected back to you? This is a great question, and I'm going somewhere with these questions. So keep your questions in order because they're going to lead to a destination and to healing, hopefully, at the end of this. What is being reflected back to you in those moments where you're triggered, where your buttons are being pushed the most, where you feel out of balance and not equally yoked and unsafe? What is being reflected back to you? So you may write down an inner belief such as, I'm not safe, I'm not lovable, I am not loved, I am not worthy, something's wrong with me, or maybe something's wrong with the world. Maybe you might have a belief that something's wrong with this world, something's wrong with that person, or something's wrong with me. Okay. So with that being said, I want you to write down mother/father wounding. Most of the time, well, we could probably even say almost all of the time. We could probably say that and be accurate, but I'm not going to give absolutes. But anyways, most of the time in intimate relationships that you're seeking to have, where there's an imbalance in that intimate relationship, it's because there is mother-father wounding. It typically will go all the way back to your childhood. Now, in your life and in your career and in your